Air Methods was created by a pilot, Mr. Roy Morgan, in 1980, with our first base opening in Grand Junction, Colorado. Since that time, the company has expanded through acquisitions of other air medical programs and has grown to become the largest and most experienced air medical rotor wing company in North America. We were also the first air medical program to enter voluntarily into the Federal Aviation Administration's Safety Management System. In 2013, Air Methods reached the highest level attainable in the Safety Management System program. Air Methods is also the only air medical company in the United States to have every flight member utilizing night vision goggles during night operations. We have been accredited by the Commission on Accreditation of Medical Transport Systems since the 1990s and are currently the only accredited air medical program in New York State. Our company routinely responds to calls for assistance in 48 of the 50 states, operating from over 300 bases with more than 400 medical helicopters and over 24 medically configured airplanes. In addition to providing critical care medicine to patients in need, we also offer aviation operations, billing and collections, dispatch and communications, field maintenance, medical staffing and training, and medical interior completions for other air medical programs as well as for the military. Our program began in March of 1992 when AeroMed relocated its base of operation to Westchester Medical Center in Valhalla, New York. The program was named Stat Flight and the medical crew consisted of 2 nurses. In February of 1996, Albany MedFlight started operation at Albany Medical Center Hospital with a nurse-paramedic team. In 2003, Air Methods, a nationwide air medical company, purchased Rocky Mountain Helicopters. 2 years later, the BK-117, known as Albany 1, was replaced at our Albany base with an EC-135. It was at this time that the program became known as LifeNet of New York, and the Albany base was named LifeNet 7-1. In 2006, StatFlight became part of the LifeNet division. Catskill Regional Medical Center and Guthrie Air became members of the LifeNet team in 2007. In 2009, LifeNet began operations in Delaware County and Steuben counties, and then began operations Jefferson County and St. Lawrence counties in 2012. Today, our program operates from 10 different bases, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Each base is strategically located to allow maximum coverage, efficient response, and timely transfer to the closest appropriate tertiary care facility. Our flight crew, consisting of a critical care registered nurse and critical care paramedic, allows for an advanced level of care similar to that of an intensive care unit. Each of our aircraft is staffed with the necessary team members to provide the highest level of care required for the critically ill and/or injured patient. We currently operate 3 different airframes: the EC-135, the AS-350, and the BK-117. The EC-135 is a twin-engine aircraft manufactured by American Eurocopter. With each engine producing 621 horsepower, this aircraft can reach speeds of 155 knots and can travel approximately 150 nautical miles on a single tank of fuel. These engines do not require a cool-down idling interval, allowing for a rapid shutdown and restart while on scene. The main rotor system consists of 4 primary rotor blades with a ground clearance of nearly 11 feet. The tail rotor on this aircraft is referred to as a fenestron tail rotor and is enclosed. The EC-135 is configured with advanced avionics, multiple radios, an XM satellite weather system, a helicopter terrain avoidance warning system, satellite tracking, dual GPS navigation system, an autopilot system, and is night vision goggle compatible. Patients are loaded headfirst through the rear clamshell doors into the medical cabin. The medical cabin is environmentally controlled and is configured with sophisticated onboard equipment to provide special airway support, cardiac intervention, advanced physiologic patient monitoring, and advanced pharmacologic modalities. Equipped with a 110-volt inverter, we can use all types of medical equipment within the cabin, including Isolettes, Intra-aortic balloon pumps, left ventricular assist devices, Impella cardiac assist devices, multiple intravenous pumps, along with advanced ventilatory assist devices. The BK-117 is a twin-engine aircraft also manufactured by American Eurocopter. With each engine producing 770 horsepower, this aircraft can reach speeds of 155 knots and can travel approximately 150 nautical miles on a single tank of fuel. Unlike the EC-135, these engines require an idle cool-down interval of nearly 4 minutes. Due to this characteristic, it is common practice for the aircraft to remain running while on a scene response with EMS. While the main rotor system is similar to the EC-135, the tail rotor on this aircraft is exposed and has a ground clearance of nearly 6 feet. This aircraft and medical cabin is configured like that of the EC-135. Patients are also loaded into this aircraft head first through the rear clamshell doors. The medical cabin is also environmentally controlled and has a configuration similar to the EC-135. American Eurocopter also manufactures the AS-350, a single-engine aircraft with an engine capable of producing over 700 horsepower. This aircraft can reach speeds of 155 knots and can travel approximately 150 nautical miles on a single tank of fuel. The engine in this aircraft also does not require an idle cool-down interval, allowing for a rapid shutdown and restart while on scene. The main rotor system of this aircraft consists of 3 primary rotor blades with a ground clearance of nearly 11 feet. The tail rotor on this aircraft is open with a ground clearance of approximately 3 feet. This aircraft's avionics are configured similarly to the EC-135. However, patients are loaded feet first through the left side door into the medical cabin, which is also environmentally controlled. With the exception of the management of intra-aortic balloon pump patients and isolette patients, this aircraft has similar medical capabilities, although a different configuration as compared to the EC-135 and the BK-117. With each of our aircraft, our average speed is 135 miles per hour. We use a simple method to calculate an estimated time of arrival, which is to take the total nautical miles of travel and divide that in half. For example, a 40 nautical mile flight would take about 20 minutes. A 60 nautical mile flight would take about 30 minutes. Safety is always a key factor in anything that we do. Air Methods has invested more than $100 million in advancing safety programs and technologies throughout our company. LifeNet of New York and Guthrie Air provide night vision goggles to all crew members. Unlike other programs that limit this safety enhancement to their pilot, we believe that having all crew members equipped with NVG provides us an awareness of our surroundings at night and an additional level of safety to our patients, crews, and those we partner with.
Now, Air Methods provides a very good safety atmosphere for especially crews. We have good equipment, we have good training, we have well-trained pilots.
Safety is number one. If we can't get to you, we can't help in any situation.
Yeah, safety is kind of paramount. It's part of the culture. It's something that we focus on. It's one of the tenets. It starts with aircraft maintenance. It follows all the way through with the pre-flight pilots doing the same thing every time, same system every day. It comes down to crew education.
The education that we do between our crews and the pre-hospital people we work with about doing the same thing every time so they can expect a certain thing out of us and we can expect a certain thing out of them. It's crew communication and communication with the ground.
And operating as safely as we can to get back home at the end of the mission, whether it's picking up the patient, taking them to the hospital, doing that as safe as we can all the way until we get back here.
It's part of the culture and it's paramount in what we do, not only for us, for the individuals as a crew, the company, the community, the ramifications are just astounding if we're not following the safety principles.
Just like any incident, utilizing the incident command system is imperative to the smooth operations of a landing zone. It is necessary to have one individual designated as the landing zone officer. This individual is responsible for selecting an appropriate area that is in close proximity to the patient, securing this area, and ensuring the safety in and around the landing zone. When determining a location for the landing zone, the standard dimensions are no less than a 100-foot by 100-foot square, and it should be located on flat terrain. The surface of the landing zone is also important, as things such as loose gravel, hay, or other debris may result in flying projectiles. It is also important to identify hazards such as trees, poles, wires, dumpsters, apparatus, buildings, vehicles, smokestacks, cranes, towers, and other natural or man-made hazards which the aircraft needs to avoid. The corners of the designated area can be marked with cones, red or blue flashing lights, or strobes. We ask that you please do not use flares or other open flames, as helicopter rotor wash has the potential to disperse any marking, and the use of an open flame could result in an unanticipated fire. During nighttime approaches, we ask that no white lights be directed into the landing zone. All of our crew members will be wearing night vision goggles, and white lights could interfere with their operation and acuity. Once the aircraft has landed and the flight crew begins to exit the aircraft, the landing zone may be lit up. However, please do not shine bright lights into the pilot cabin, as this could ruin the natural night vision of the pilot and crew.
It's very important when setting up an LZ to be mindful of what's on the ground as well as what's above you. So we need to make sure that the ground is clear, that there aren't any loose objects that could possibly become airborne while we're landing.
When we're approaching the landing zone, what we're looking for are wires, trees, poles, and objects that are not secure to the ground.
From 1,000 feet up, it's very, very difficult to see power lines, trees. We're always looking out, and one of the great things is when they let us know exactly where there's phone wires, where there's telephone poles.
An area that's big enough for our aircraft to actually fit in, whether it's lengthwise and widthwise. Football fields, soccer fields, things like that are great.
Anything on the ground that might be a hazard, tree stumps, rocks, extremely high grass.
We love to see cones during a daytime situation. We love to see flashing lights at night, flashing lights on the ground as if they're marking where we're supposed to land.
4 cones with a flashlight in them. As pilots, we can see that a long ways away with our MEGs.
Wires are difficult to find day or night, and more especially at night. That's one of the things that our goggles help with a little bit, but because they're so thin, we really need people to walk through our landing zones and look up, look down, look all over the place, just to see what's around and what we might come in contact with.
And then of course we're looking for our ultimate destination, make sure that there's an ambulance there, that we're going to have access to our patients.
I have the final authority when they give us an LZ. If I start the approach down and I don't like it, I can terminate the approach and say to move it or pick out another landing zone that I think is appropriate.
In this potential landing zone, what relevant hazards do you see? How about the flagpole? Do you see the light poles in the parking lot and along the access road? How about the surrounding fence? It is a ball field in what appears to be a school. This has a great potential for pedestrian traffic and to be a dynamic environment. So is this a good landing zone? Yes, it is. This is a great landing zone with all of the hazards clearly identified and relayed to the inbound aircraft. In this landing zone, you should already see the potential hazards: overhead wires, street signs, loose gravel. Is this a good landing zone? No, this is not a good landing zone with the potential hazards identified. Is this a good landing zone? Trees surrounding the area. Possible debris in one corner. Wires at the top of the ridge, just above the tree line in the top right of the photo. A fence that appears to be surrounding the area. A car to the far left on the other side of the fence line. So is this a good landing zone? Yes, this is a good landing zone. Again, with all hazards identified and in a rather wide open area. How about this landing zone? We have light poles along the roadway, a rear slope to the ground, and a curb that is present. Is this a good landing zone? Yes, this is a good landing zone if the designated area is the pavement away from the curb. The grassy area with a slope is not a good landing zone. How about this landing zone? The tarp on the left side, flagpole to the right, the power lines, the large unlit chimney. With what we have identified from the ground, let us take a look from the air. What additional hazards or added information do you see? A vehicle in the proximity of the landing zone. Debris where the tarp appeared previously. Notice the tarp is now difficult to identify. Power lines near the flagpole. Are you able to identify additional locations that might be a more appropriate site? How about the baseball field in the upper right? Maybe. However, it appears that one of the fields is being used. All in all, is this a good landing zone? This is a good landing zone, but as you can see from the ground versus aerial view, the flight crew may choose an alternate landing zone. How does this area look? This is an area of heavy traffic. The highway or a section of it would need to be closed or limited. If the section between the opposing traffic patterns is flat and debris was minimal, it could be utilized as well. Power lines across the road. This requires increased communication with the highway authorities, such as the state police, thruway authority, etc. The landing zone officer will also be responsible for all communications between the air and ground notifications back to the aircraft. What you can hear and see should also be part of this communication.
LZ Command, LifeNet 71 on 155715.
Selkirk Fire is your LZ Command. Go ahead. LifeNet 71.
Selkirk Fire 71, be advised we have the landing zone in sight. Could you give us a brief description of the landing zone, including the type of surface that we'll be landing on?
Yes, sir. A rail yard just to the south of us. We have cones positioned to the center of the landing zone. We have no tree obstructions. We have two highways. We're going to set you down in the middle of the two highways. When you approach, please advise us when you get closer. I do have an audio on you. I do not have a visual at this time.
Everyone, copy is loud and clear. We have you in sight. We will be coming in for landing. We should be down momentarily.
When communicating with an inbound aircraft that is in sight, the best way to reference objects for such to the aircraft is to utilize the clock position.
Using clock method, with the nose of the aircraft being noon and the sides being 3, 9 o'clock and the tail being 6 o'clock, it's very handy for us then to determine where we're going to land. And we do it as a collective group, determine where we're going to land, how we're going to land, and direction of landing. So.
Never assume that the flight crew can see everything. If we are approaching a hazard, yell "stop" through the radio. We will hold our position until we communicate with the landing zone officer and confirm what the concern is before continuing our operation.
As soon as we touch down on the LZ, don't come up to the aircraft, to try and help or help the medical crew take the stretcher out or help them grab their equipment. Just let us come to you and let the aircraft get shut down before approaching it.
People approaching the aircraft should always approach from a 45-degree angle off the nose of the aircraft, either side of the aircraft. They should try to get the pilot's attention. They can do whatever they want. Normally the pilot's looking in that area anyway to see if anybody's coming. Nobody should approach the aircraft within 50 feet unless they're designated to do so by the pilot or one of the medical crew members.
The crew, before they'll approach the aircraft, they'll clear it with an eye contact with the pilot, and they'll give a thumbs up whether they can enter under the rotor system or not. Nobody does an entry under the rotor system unless they have a thumbs up with the pilot. You don't go underneath the rotor system. Stay clear until you have eye contact with the pilot.
And that'll be just a hand gesture from the pilot or one of the crew members to proceed in or to stop and hold their position.
With helicopters, the biggest danger is with the main and tail rotor system. We will always ask the assistance of the local fire department for carrying and loading of the patient. At times, this may be done while the aircraft is running, or possibly with the aircraft shut down. Either way, a level of alertness and communication must be maintained between all parties involved to ensure safe operations. As shown in this diagram, representative of the BK-117 and the EC-135, there are definitive danger zones and zones of operation. At no time should our partners be operating within the danger zones depicted by the red areas of this diagram. If you are assisting our crews with the loading of a patient, it is important that you remain within the zone of operations depicted by yellow in this diagram. If you are assisting with operations around the AS-350, it is important to note that these zones are different. At no time should our partners be operating within the danger zones depicted by the red areas of this diagram. It is important that you remain within the zone of operations depicted by yellow in this diagram. Firefighter operations play an important role in the safety of the landing zone.
Time to see the fire departments will have a hose pulled and they'll have the hose charged. We don't want to dictate to the individual fire departments. They each have their own policies and procedures that they follow. But as we're out doing the education, we would prefer that they not have a hose charged on the ready, just in case we happen to have an incident that's further away from the LZ. If they have the hose charged, they have to pack that up and reset everything for a rapid response.
The National Fire Protection Association nor the Federal Aviation Administration have any directive or policy that require firefighters to deploy inside the landing zone with a charged line, air pack, or other equipment. While it is important for firefighters to maintain the integrity of the landing zone, it is equally important that they strategically position themselves a safe distance away should an unanticipated incident occur on approach or departure. In the case of an incident, you may experience a variety of projectiles as a result of the impact. These projectiles may fly through the air at high speeds or over long distances. This is why it is imperative to maintain a safe distance away from the active landing zone. First responders should also be aware that many aircraft carry sophisticated oxygen delivery systems, ranging from liquid oxygen to compressed gas systems. In case of fire, Jet A fuel is less flammable than gas. Some aircraft parts are made from magnesium alloys. For any incident requiring fire suppression, it is imperative to use a Class A foam suppressant. Never assume the flight crew can see everything. Due to terrain, lighting, reflection, or environmental variables, things could look different based on your vantage point. Note the direction of this departure. The pilot was unable to see the wires and was immediately notified by the landing zone officer. Quick action prevented a tragic situation. Mark your wires by parking a lit truck or vehicle underneath. You can also illuminate poles with scene lights. In situations where multiple patients are in need of rapid critical care transport, multiple aircraft may be requested and may be responding. Please make sure that all communication centers are aware of the multi-aircraft response. When communicating with the first inbound aircraft, it is a priority to ensure that the pilot is aware of additional aircraft coming into the scene. In the states of New York, Pennsylvania, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, there are similar but varying policies on air medical utilization. National helicopter transport guidelines have been established to assist in the development of these states' existing policies and recommendations. A copy of these can be found on our website. We ask that you familiarize yourself with your local policies and guidelines. Remember that these are all just that, guidelines, and that not every condition can be specifically defined.
Once an injury happens, it's just putting us on call, so that way we're ready and poised to launch when you do need us. So a lot of the local fire departments are good at, as soon as they hear they got a motor vehicle accident or a fall or any type of accident where it could be trauma, is putting us on standby right off the bat. We can respond that much quicker.
It is crucial to your patient's outcome to always use good clinical judgment in making your decisions to utilize an aircraft and crew in your treatment plan. It has been repeatedly shown that early activation or automatic standby policies greatly improve patient outcomes.
You want to call an aircraft to get the patient to definitive care as soon as possible.
LifeNet Air 2 Aircom. Air facility request picking up Ellenville Regional.
Early notification confirms our availability, secures the closest aircraft, and readies the crew, thereby minimizing potential delays. The distance between your incident and our closest aircraft may result in our program providing an airborne standby. This means we will assemble our crew and actually launch the helicopter and start heading toward you. This will significantly decrease our ETA once a decision is made to utilize us. We encourage early cancellation if patient assessment or additional information from the scene concludes that our specialty level of care and transport capabilities are not required, so we may release this valuable resource for other responses as needed. Some of the special circumstances that may arise regarding air medical transport consist of pulseless and apneic patients. Survivability of traumatic arrest is less than 2%, with hypothermic patients being the exception. A common misperception is that patients may be too critical to fly. There really is no patient category that is too critical to fly when pertaining to pre-hospital utilization. We can and will provide assistance to ground crews by utilizing a team approach and transporting by ground if necessary. This means that if the only patient on the scene goes into cardiac arrest, the flight crew will determine the closest facility and the ETA by both air and ground to that facility. If ground is closer than the flight, then the crew will continue patient care with you and transport by ambulance. In the situation of a mass casualty incident, a large number of patients find themselves in need of care and transportation. An air medical program is a great resource in this situation. By transporting victims greater distances in a shorter amount of time, local facilities will not be overwhelmed. Multiple helicopters may be utilized to assist with this type of situation. Consider utilizing LifeNet of New York and Guthrie Air as part of your MCI plan. The most efficient sequence for patients' care is always timely interaction by appropriate resources with minimal delays and rapid transport to a facility specializing in the care needed for your patient. Coordinating the arrival of a helicopter at the scene prior to the patient being ready for ground transport always results in a more efficient operation. However, circumstances do arise when the decision to utilize air medical is delayed and the arrival of the aircraft is extended. In cases where the patient is ready for ground transport and our arrival is greater than 5 additional minutes, you should consider an intercept. Intercepts can take place at another temporary landing zone as established by a local fire department or at a hospital with an on-site helipad that is local to the area or along your route of travel. It is important to confirm with hospitals before utilizing their property for an intercept. Regulations, specifically EMTALA, the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, allow for these intercepts to occur. On occasion, EMTALA is interpreted differently by hospital administration. We encourage you to contact your facilities to pre-plan prior to the need for intercept with an air medical program. If you would like assistance with the development of these pre-plans, please contact us. As you have heard several times throughout this video presentation, early request is an important part of utilizing air medical transport. Pre-hospital activation of our service should be directed through your local 911 center. For interfacility activation of our service, the hospital staff can directly contact our communications center, AirCom. LifeNet of New York and Guthrie Air are proud to partner with the many fine agencies and organizations throughout our region. We welcome the opportunity to continue to provide each of you and your patients with the exemplary patient care and the customer service that you've come to expect from our program for over 20 years. We hope you found your time with us to be informative and useful in your practice. If you wish to learn more about our program, request an educational outreach, participate in our ride-along program, or to discuss employment, please visit us online at guthrieair.com or lifenetny.com. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook or subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay abreast of our latest activities and announcements. Thank you.
Good power. Good ground. 100 feet per minute. Okay, and tail will be sliding left. Goes right. And show clear obstacles still.
Yep, clear on your left.
Roger. Think I'm on the middle of this thing? What do you think?
Yep, they look pretty good.
Boom.
Aircom, go here and down to here.
Yes, clear out.